Smith Wesson M&P 22 Magnum. Let's check it out. Guys, in a world of 9mm polymer frame striker fire pistols, or maybe 22 pistols, it's good to see something that's just different. Something that takes a caliber that's been around since 1959 and incorporate it into a semi-automatic pistol. Now, Walther did that with their WMP, but Smith & Wesson has now introduced their M&P 22 Magnum. This is really innovative and really following on the heels of the Smith & Wesson 5.7. which has the Tempo Barrel system, which so does the 22 Magnum. It is a really soft shooting caliber already, but with the Tempo Delayed Blowback, it makes it incredibly soft. Fantastic trigger, a lot of other cool features, and yet they've mastered that 22 Magnum, which has been hard to beat. It's been hard to make this a reliable caliber. But now we're seeing the technology to where they're doing it. But guys, really this makes a great self-defense option for those that are recoil sensitive, have lesser hand strength, or just have little shooting experience. And so it's one of the things I'm loving to see about 22 Magnum. Is it the ultimate in self-defense? No, but it's definitely more effective than 22, and a lot of the ballistics and the testing we've done has shown that it is definitely effective. Now we want to thank Smith & Wesson for sending the M&P 22 Magnum for this review, but they also sent it for me to keep. And guys, I'm going to be putting a lot of rounds through this little gem. This is a surprise in some aspects, but it's not. 22 Magnum was designed in 1959. It's been around for a long time. Really great for hunting, small game. One of the difficult things has been for 22 Magnum to be put in a semi-automatic firearm. You know, with the 22 rifles, they started coming out with those, but the handgun is a different animal. One of the problems is that it's a long cartridge, very thin, very long. But the rim on the cartridge causes, you know, just a little bit of an issue because it does stick out, and once you put them together, you know, it can cause these to go into a different direction. And so it's been a little bit of a bane, but it's just like the 22 long rifle, same thing. This is a rimfire caliber, and that means that the firing pin hits the rim instead of center fire with a primer. They're not quite typically as reliable as your standard center fires, but these have become pretty reliable. One great thing about 22 Magnum is it kind of comes in at one of the most popular calibers in the world, the 22 long rifle, and it just ups the game. I mean, we're talking about 2,000 feet per second versus about 1,250 feet per second. And there's a lot of different variations there, but it's quite a bit of a difference in velocity. And yet these are both 40-grain bullets. But let's go ahead and check to make sure the gun's unloaded. We're going to drop our magazine. We're going to check the chamber. The magazine capacity is a little over the top, and we have 30 round mag capacity. And you get 2 mags. Now these have blocks in them, so they're not 30 round magazines, which goes against YouTube policy. So these are actually 25 round magazines. One of the things about that is it gives you a lot of capability with this handgun. And we'll go ahead and make sure that the gun is unloaded, and it is. Now with the 5.7, they came out with a stainless steel magazine, and this holds 22 rounds. And then we have just that polymer. But with 22 Magnum, this gives it a little more body here, and it just allows them to line up and to stack. And again, because of that rim, it's one of the reasons why they've gone to this style magazine. There are witness holes on one side does have a base plate that comes out of the bottom and fits right into the grip. And it really keeps this very lightweight. And that's one of the things about 22 Magnum, especially with the slide. It is a super easy to pull slide. And we're going to drop the magazine. I'm going to show you how smooth this thing is. It's just super smooth. Now the 5.7 is also smooth. This is a little more smooth than the 5.7. One of the things about it is that it generates very little recoil when shooting. It shoots incredibly flat. Now a lot of that has to do with the Tempo barrel system. Now we're going to take a look at the Tempo barrel system, and this really differentiates the Smith & Wesson, not only the M&P 22 Magnum, but also for the 5.7. We have a sleeve, and you have your barrel, and it has these gas checks or ridge lines all the way down the barrel. Again, this is just a sleeve, and the barrel locks into it. And then you have a gas port right here at the front. And so what this does is when the gases are expended out of the cartridge, they come out here. But this allows it to delay. And it spins some of the gas off before this comes back. It helps it to be more reliable. It helps it to be more consistent. One thing that's different, though, about the 22 Magnum is when we put it in. With the 5.7, we had a rotating system. The barrel actually rotated. With the 22, there is no rotation. It's locked in. Now, sitting on the receiver, we have these little ledges right here. So the barrel only comes back this far. So it's about 1/3 of an inch. It just pops back, allows those gases to escape, and again, it just gives that delay. But we're going to show the full disassembly of the firearm later on. And guys, that is a very state-of-the-art system. It's great to see technology that's being expanded, especially being able to utilize these type calibers. One of the big things about this particular handgun, it's great for first-time shooters. It's a suitable self-defense round. We've done some testing with ballistic gelatin, and you know, the 22 Magnum really performed shockingly well, actually. And so while it does have a very lightweight bullet compared to a 9mm, which is 115 grain, you still have a lot of energy. Is it the best? No, there are better options out there, but there are a lot of people that just are so recoil sensitive, and too with weaker hand strength. So being able to bring the slide back makes it really easy to do. Has really nice, soft, but yet fairly aggressive texturing, and it goes all the way around the grip. I mean, it is in every area. And so when you grab this grip, I mean, you've got a very solid feel to it. It's a very confident feel to it. And yet the recoil is very mild. Smooth all the way up at the top, and then we have a 4-slot Picatinny rail. Nice ample handguard, and then here is our mag release. Really just, it doesn't really jettison the mags out, but it does pop them. And my hand's catching here at the back of the magazine. But with that base plate, it's easy just to pull out, and really, it'll fall out if you just get your hand out of the way. We have frame safeties on this one, but it does come with the option of no frame safety. We have our slide stop, and it is ambidextrous, and so is the frame safety. With the 5.7, you can see the plug. I chose a non-frame safety model. Smith & Wesson just sent this one, so you know it does have the frame safety, but you know I don't mind too much. But I'm typically not a big fan of frame safety. And we have a flat face trigger. We'll take a good look at it with the trigger safety. Now the slide is an Armonite finish. It's very well done, stainless steel. We have really nice deep serrations here at the back. Again, super easy to grab. One thing though I noticed is there are no front slide serrations. And to be honest, that kind of surprised me because the 5.7 has the front slide serrations. But obviously, you know, to press check, it doesn't take much at all. And really with a 22 Magnum, it's just going to be simple to pull back. We do have serrations along the top. This keeps down glare, and we have a optics plate. This is for the Shield RMSC, which is a micro red dot. It's a very thin slide. I mean, the gun itself is super thin, and it was very pointable. And it's thin this way. But the one thing about 22 Magnum is it's fairly long. And so the grip just seems to be a little bit long, and it's the same as the 5.7. But with that being said, when you put these two on top, the 5.7 comes out about 1/4 of an inch thicker. So this is actually going to be a little thinner than your 5.7. And the 5.7's fine. I mean, it feels good in your hand. But this gives you just a little less grip from front to back. This is also an internal hammer-fired pistol. We'll look at that when we break it down. The rear sight is serrated and it's blacked out. The front is a fiber optic rod, and you can change that out, and it is dovetailed in. It has a 4.35-inch barrel, also the Armonite finish. One of the things about Armonite too is that it is a beautiful nitride finish, and I think Smith & Wesson really excels in their finishing on all of their M&P series. Here at the end of the barrel, there is a small little bull nose. And guys, it's just a very beautiful but yet unique looking gun. Because it's so large, it's so long, and yet it's super thin. Now, like your 1911, it has that 17-degree grip angle. It's a very natural pointing handgun. If it wasn't for the weight, this would feel a lot like a 1911 with that thin grip. And yet, guys, when you take this out to the range, and I'll tell you, it was so easy to shoot. Now, 22 Magnum's louder than 22 long rifle, so it definitely has a little more volume to the sound. And there is a fireball that comes out of the end. You still have a lot of gas and energy that passes through. But with the 4.35-inch barrel, it does give you a decent amount of velocity out of this barrel. With the Walther WMP, honestly, this really shocked me. With the 22 Magnum, then when Smith & Wesson introduced it, I was a little bit cushioned. But this is a 15-round magazine. It is also polymer, but it has the loading right here, so you can load this pretty easily. And then we'll check the chamber. This slide is super lightweight. It's easy to bring back. But one of the things about the Walther is that it's a little bit larger and more clunky than the Smith & Wessons. This is very streamlined, very easy at the range. With the Tempo barrel system, there's no recoil. With the WMP, there is a little bit with the slide coming back. You feel it. It's not a lot of recoil. It's still light to shoot. It's fun to shoot. But I just noticed that there's a little bit more slide mass coming back in your hand than it is with the Smith & Wesson. And some of that has to do with the bore axis. There is a considerable difference between the Smith & Wesson and the Walther. You can see the hammer with the WMP Walther, and again, it's an internal hammer, but it's a very short hammer, so it doesn't need that extra room to be able to function. So the bore axis is considerably lower, but because of 22 Magnum being so easy to shoot, it's not quite as big of a deal. But really, the Smith & Wesson, to me, shoots better. But the Walther, I mean, this is a very ergonomic gun. It's a lot of fun to take to the range. So again, really, it's just personal preference. We have the Tempo barrel system in the 5.7, and we have it in the 22 Magnum. But one thing about ammo cost, with the 5.7, it's pretty expensive. With the 22 Magnum, this is starting to come down, but it was around the same price as most of your 9mm. And traditionally, it's been less. But when the ammo shortage was going on, prices went nuts, and we're starting to see those prices come down. But you can definitely pick up the 22 Magnum for considerably less money than the 5.7. And the 5.7 did come with a threaded barrel, which we didn't with the 22 Magnum. And I'm sure that's probably going to be an option coming up. But at this time, because this is so brand new, we're just finding out. So we'll see how that goes. Now, one gun that really kind of piqued my interest was the Kel-Tec PMR 30. Man, that is a great gun to take out to the range. The recoil is low. There's a lot of polymer. Even the slide is polymer. But man, that is really what kind of got things really started. They did have the AMT Auto Mag, which was 22 Magnum. And it was really hit or miss as far as reliability. With the PMR 30, we had a great time with it. So really there is a market for 22 Magnum, and it's really great to see some of the larger companies coming into the playing field. Now when it comes to the trigger, it's flat-faced. We have our trigger safety right here, and so unless the trigger is fully depressed, it's not going to accidentally go off. Once we hit our trigger safety, we have a little bit of take up. It's not a whole lot, and we hit a definite wall. Trigger pull, that is a clean break. I mean, it's a really clean break. Go ahead and bring our slide back for reset, right there. The trigger pull, though, seems a little heavy, so we're going to check the trigger pull weight. We've got our Lyman trigger gauge from Brownells. 3 pounds, 4.7 ounces. That's a lot, not near as heavy as I thought it was. 3 pounds, 9.4 ounces. So about 3.5 pounds. The weight on the M&P 22 Magnum, 22.11 ounces. We're going to be shooting some Federal. This is 40 grain and it's full metal jacket. And they recommend certain type ammos to be the best, and this was on the list. So, you know, lighter grain bullets are probably a little bit weak for cycling the action. And when loading these rounds, they load from the front and you just push them in. They're fairly easy to load, and with these long cartridges, and they stagger. Well, guys, the Smith Wesson 22 Magnum. I mean, I'm loving that 22 Magnum's coming back. Once Walther introduced their WMP, that really kind of made me think, man, this is a great revival. And then Smith & Wesson came out with the 22 Magnum after they did the 5.7. Very similar as far as the configuration. But one of the things about 5.7 or 22 Mag is it's a long, really thin caliber. And so you have thickness from front to back, but very thin on the grip. Love the texturing on this grip. But what I love the most is how easy and low the recoil is. I mean, this is great for anyone who is recoil sensitive, and yet gives them a pretty decent self-defense round. That fiber optic sight, man, shows up like the day, especially in this sunlight. Blacked out rear, optics ready, got a rail on it. I mean, this can put anyone into a good position for self-defense, especially home defense. No, 22 Magnum's not the ultimate round, but it's definitely much better than 22, and it can be very effective. We've done quite a bit of testing with it. The flat face trigger, really sweet. Just again, it's exciting to see 22 Magnum coming back around. And the magazine capacity is over the top. It's a little bit louder, but there's hardly any recoil whatsoever. And there is a fireball that comes out of the end. This is awesome.
Then when it comes to disassembly, we're going to drop our magazine, check the chamber, the gun's empty. With the slide stops on either side. When you bring your slide back, you'll notice this little small notch right here. And you want to line this up with the slide stop. Then turn it over to the other side and just push that pin out, just like that, which makes the slide stop come right out. Next, we're going to pull off our slide and keep your thumb on the recoil system. And we're going to pull our recoil spring and guide rod out. It is all metal, flat recoil spring, and then we remove our barrel. Now this is a little different because it is that Tempo barrel system, and so it comes right out of the sleeve. You have these little ridges, and these are your gas checks, and then right here is a small hole, and this is where the gas comes out. And again, what this does, it just delays the action. Now a little different with the 5.7 is the barrel would rotate. With this, it's just a delay. And so then it comes back, and it only comes back a short amount. So this is not really an excessive amount that comes out, but it gives it just enough with that gas being pushed out, less than a second. And then it just allows those gases to just dissipate. But one thing is, it gets really dirty, so you want to make sure that you keep that clean. Now here you'll notice that we do have a small little hammer, and again this has an internal hammer fire system, but it's really fairly simple. Just back here with the hammer, there is some complication. With the slide you have your striker safety, you have your area for your hammer. Again, there are no cuts in the slide to lighten the weight like it was on the 5.7. And guys, that's all you need to do to field strip. For reassembly, take your barrel. You will notice there's a small notch at the bottom of your barrel, and it fits into the sleeve just like this. There's only one way that it'll fit. And then put your barrel back into
the slide, take your recoil spring and guide rod, depress it. One thing I've noticed too is with the 5.7, this would shift quite a bit. And here with the 22 Magnum, it is really stationary. Next, we're going to put it over our frame. And you got to make sure that you're getting under those rails in the back. I was having a little bit of trouble. We're going to line up that little notch, take our takedown lever, drop it in, and you hear it snap. Throw in our magazine, test for function, and we're back in business. The M&P 22 Magnum comes in this really nice box. And we have, of course, the pistol. It is in foam. We have an extra magazine. We have our lock, we have our warranty card, and we also have the instruction manual and the old Smith Wesson wax paper. And guys, your Shield RMSC footprint will fit directly to the slide, so you don't have to worry about adapter plates. Now the retail price on the Smith Wesson M&P 22 Magnum is $649. Market price is typically less. Some pros and cons. First pro is that it is incredibly soft shooting, and yet it gives you that 22 Magnum, which again can be used as a self-defense round. I'm not recommending this as the ultimate. I mean, there are some really great self-defense options out there, but for those that are very recoil sensitive or have weak hand strength, this is going to allow them to pull the slide back with ease. It's going to have a very soft shooting, and it is a full-size firearm. So, it makes it great for those, again, who just have little experience. Honestly, I would recommend at least 380 9mm. But 22 Magnum is an effective self-defense caliber. You have a really high mag capacity, and that's a big plus. Of course, the fit and finish of the 22 Magnum is very nice. I mean, the Armonite finish over the stainless, and it's just got a beautiful sheen to it. Deep serrations, but yet it's really easy to pull back. Optics ready, you have a rail on the front, but you also have really nice fiber optic sight with a blacked out front. The Tempo Barrel System, man, it really makes a difference with this firearm as well. And with that delay in the action, it just really softens the recoil even more. Guys, it's just really great to see another semi-automatic pistol that is made for a very common caliber. I mean, 22 Magnum, again, it's been around since 1959. And you can up your game with the 5.7, and you're going to get a little bit more velocity. But it's still about a 40-grain bullet, and really doing the test that we were doing, it performed very well with the 22 Magnum. And 5.7 by 28 is actually a NATO-approved round for their militaries. So it's definitely been proven, and this has been a great coup just to see the 5.7s. But now we're seeing these 22 Magnums come in. And guys, they are giving you a lot of similarities with the Walther WMP and with the Kel-Tec PMR 30. And I'm sure that we'll be seeing others. It's just nice to see these little micro calibers that are coming out and becoming very popular. So guys, again, with all the polymer striker fire pistols and 9mm that are out there, great to see a tried and true caliber coming back to life and in a semi-automatic. And guys, this Smith & Wesson M&P 22 Magnum is just an excellent gun. And when you take it out to the range and first shoot it, the recoil is so light you may wonder if you've actually pulled the trigger. But when you do, that trigger is sweet and that recoil is nil, and it just is a huge pleasure. But it's very effective. And again, a huge thank you to Smith & Wesson for sending the M&P 22 Magnum. Be strong, be of good courage. God bless America. Long live the Republic.
thing just kept going on and on and on. I said, good Lord, I love it. I love it. It's really nice that Smith & Wesson, okay. It's really nice that Smith & Wesson's so nice. From your standard 22. We really appreciate Smith & Wesson for sending the, this really gives it that extra bee that's flying around my head. Is the Tempo Barrel, is the Tempo recoil system. Slow it down. Slow it down.